Good morning. So we started our new book, Raymie Nightingale. And last time we talked a little bit about what the word nightingale means and why this is called Raymie Nightingale. Raymie is certainly the girl's name in the book, but her last name is Clark. So we wonder why it's called Raymie Nightingale. In case you missed the last video, Raymie's father has run off and left her and her mother. And Raymie has a plan to hopefully get him to come home. She thinks that if she can win a beauty contest, that he'll see her picture in the paper and be so proud to have a famous daughter that he'll come home. What do you think about that plan? Yeah, I think maybe that's a little bit far-fetched. I'm kind of thinking there's something going wrong there. But I also think that it's a good way for Raymie to deal with some of her emotions that she must be feeling. And sometimes we have to deal with emotions in different ways. So whatever works for you, right? Let's see what happens next for Raymie. 5. This explained what Raymie was doing in Ida Nee's backyard under Ida Nee's pine trees. She was learning how to twirl a baton. Or that was what she was supposed to be doing. But then the girl in the pink dress fainted, and the twirling lesson came to a screeching halt. Ida Nee said, "This is ridiculous. No one faints in my classes. I don't believe in fainting." Fainting didn't seem like the kind of thing that you needed to believe in, or not, in order for it to happen. But Ida Nee was a world champion twirler, and she probably knew what she was talking about. "It is just nonsense," said Ida Nee. "I don't have time for nonsense." This pronouncement was greeted with a small silence, and then Beverly Topinski slapped the girl in the pink dress. She slapped one cheek and then the other one. "What in the world?" said Ida Nee. "This is what you do for people who faint," said Beverly. "You slap them." She slapped the girl again. "Wake up," she shouted. The girl opened her eyes. "Uh-oh," she said. "Has the county home come? Is Marcia Jean here?" "I don't know any Marcia Jean," said Beverly. "You fainted." "Did I?" She blinked. "I have very swampy lungs." "This lesson is over," said Ida Nee. I'm not wasting my time with lollygaggers and malingerers or fainters." "Good," said Beverly. "No one wants to learn how to twirl a stupid baton anyway." Which was not true. Raymie wanted to learn. In fact, she needed to learn. But it didn't seem like a good idea to disagree with Beverly. Ida Nee marched away from them, down to the lake. She lifted her white-booted legs very high. You could tell she was a world champion just by watching her march. "Sit up," said Beverly to the fainting girl. The girl sat up. She looked around her in wonder, as if she had been deposited on Ida Nee's property by mistake. She blinked. She put her hand on her head. "My brain feels light as a feather," she said. "Duh," said Beverly. "That's because you fainted." "I'm afraid that I wouldn't have made a very good flying elefante," said the girl. There was a long silence. "What's an elefante?" asked Raymie finally. The girl blinked. Her blonde hair shone white in the sun. "I'm an elefante. My name is Louisiana Elefante. My parents were the flying elefantes. Haven't you heard of them?" "No," said Beverly. "We haven't heard of them. You should try to stand up now." Louisiana put her hand on her chest. She took a deep breath. She wheezed. Beverly rolled her eyes. "Here," she said. She held out her hand. It was a grubby hand. The fingers were smudged and the nails were dirty and chewed down. But in spite of its grubbiness, or maybe because of it, it was a very certain-looking hand. Louisiana took hold of it and Beverly pulled her to her feet. "Oh, my goodness," said Louisiana. "I'm just all filled up with feathers and regrets and fears. I have a lot of fears." She stood there staring at both of them. Her eyes were dark. They were brown. No, they were black, and they were set very deep in her face. She blinked. "I've got a question for you," she said. "Have you ever in your life come to realize that everything, absolutely everything, depends on you?" Raymie didn't even have to think about the answer to this question. "Yes," she said. "Duh," said Beverly. "It's terrifying, isn't it?" said Louisiana. The three of them stood there looking at one another. Raymie felt something expanding inside of her. It felt like a gigantic tent billowing out. This, Raymie knew, was her soul. Mrs. Borkowski, who lived across the street from Raymie and who was very, very old, said that most people wasted their souls. "How do they waste them?" Raymie had asked. "They let them shrivel," said Mrs. Borkowski, which was maybe, Raymie wasn't sure, the sound a soul made when it shriveled. But as Raymie stood in Ida Nee's backyard next to Louisiana and Beverly, it did not feel like her soul was shriveling at all. It felt like it was filling up, becoming larger, brighter, more certain. Down at the lake on the edge of the dock, Ida Nee was twirling her baton. It flashed and glimmered. She threw it very high in the air. The baton looked like a needle. It looked like a secret, narrow and bright and alone, glittering in the blue sky. Raymie remembered the words from earlier. "I'm sorry I betrayed you." She turned to Louisiana and asked, "Who is Archie?" 6. "Well, I'll just begin at the beginning, since that's always the best place to begin," said Louisiana. Beverly snorted. "Once upon a time," said Louisiana, "in a land very far away and also surprisingly close by, there lived a cat named Archie Elefante who was much admired and loved and who was also known as the King of the Cats. But then darkness fell." "Why don't you just say what happened?" said Beverly. "All right, if you want me to, I will just say it. We betrayed him." "How?" asked Raymie. "We had to take Archie to the Very Friendly Animal Center because we couldn't afford to feed him anymore," said Louisiana. "What Very Friendly Animal Center?" asked Beverly. "I've never heard of any Very Friendly Animal Center." "I can't believe you've never heard of the Very Friendly Animal Center. It's a place where they will feed Archie 3 times a day and scratch him behind the ears exactly the way he likes. Still, I never should have left him there. It was a betrayal. I betrayed him." Raymie's heart thudded. Betrayed. "But don't worry," said Louisiana. She put her hand on her chest and took a deep breath. She smiled a dazzling smile. "I've entered the Little Miss Central Florida Tire 1975 contest, and I'm going to win that $1,975 and save myself from the county home and get Archie back from the Very Friendly Animal Center and never be terrified again." Raymie's soul stopped being a tent. "You're going to compete in the Little Miss Central Florida Tire contest?" she asked. "Yes, I am," said Louisiana. "And I feel like my chances at winning are very good because I come from a show business background." Raymie's soul became smaller, tighter. It turned into something hard, like a pebble. "As I said before, my parents were the Flying Elefantes." Louisiana bent and picked up her baton. "They were famous." Beverly rolled her eyes at Raymie. "It's true. My parents traveled all over the world," said Louisiana. "They had suitcases with their names printed on them. The Flying Elefantes. That's what their suitcases said." Louisiana stretched out her baton and moved it around as if she were writing golden words in the air above their heads. "Their name was written on every suitcase in script, and the F and the Y had very long tails. I like long tails." "I'm in that contest too," said Raymie. "What contest?" asked Louisiana. She blinked. "The Little Miss Central Florida Tire Contest," said Raymie. "My goodness," said Louisiana. She blinked again. "I'm going to sabotage that contest," said Beverly. She looked at Raymie, and then she looked at Louisiana, and then she reached into her shorts and took out a pocket knife. She unfolded the blade. It looked like a very sharp knife. Suddenly, even though the sun was shining high in the sky, the world seemed less bright. Old Mrs. Borkowski said all the time that the sun could not be relied on. "What is the sun?" said Mrs. Borkowski. "I will tell you. The sun is nothing but a dying star. Some day it will go out." Pfft! Pfft was actually something that Mrs. Borkowski said often and about a lot of things. "What are you going to do with that knife?" asked Louisiana. "I told you," said Beverly. "I'm going to sabotage the contest. I am going to sabotage everything." She slashed the knife through the air. "Oh, my goodness," said Louisiana. "That's right," said Beverly. She smiled a very small smile, and then she folded up the knife and put it back in the pocket of her shorts. 7. They walked together up to Ida Nee's circular driveway. Ida Nee was still down on the dock, marching back and forth and twirling her baton and talking to herself. Raymie could hear her voice, a low, angry murmur, but she could not understand what she was saying. "I hate Little Miss contests," said Beverly. "I hate bows and ribbons and batons and all of it. I hate spangly things. My mother has entered me into every Little Miss contest there ever was, and I'm tired of it. And that is why I'm going to sabotage this one." "But there's $1,975 to win," said Louisiana. "That is a king's ransom. That's an untold fortune. Do you know how much tuna fish you can buy for $1,975? "No," said Beverly, "and I don't care." "Tuna fish is very high in protein," said Louisiana. "In the county home, they only serve you bologna sandwiches. Bologna is not good for people with swampy lungs." This conversation was interrupted by a loud noise. A station wagon with wood paneling on its side was coming toward Ida Nee's circular driveway very fast. The driver's side back door of the station wagon was partially unhinged. It was swinging open and then slamming shut again. "Here's Granny," said Louisiana. "Where?" said Raymie, because it truly did not appear that anybody was driving the car. It was like the Headless Horseman, only with a station wagon instead of a horse. And then Raymie saw 2 hands on the steering wheel, and just as the station wagon pulled into the driveway, spraying gravel and dust, a voice called out, "Louisiana Elefante, get into the car." "I have to go now," said Louisiana. "It sure seems that way," said Beverly. "It was nice to meet you," said Raymie. "Hurry!" shouted the voice from inside the station wagon. "Marcia Jean is somewhere close behind. I'm certain of it. I can feel her malevolent presence." "Oh, my goodness," said Louisiana. She got in the back seat and tried to pull the broken door closed. "If Marcia Jean shows up," she shouted at Raymie and Beverly, "tell her you haven't seen me. Don't allow her to write anything down on her clipboard. And tell her that you don't know my whereabouts." "We don't know your whereabouts," said Beverly. "Who is Marcia Jean?" asked Raymie. "Quit asking her questions," said Beverly. "It just gives her an excuse to make up a story." The station wagon shot forward. The back door swung open, then shut with a loud bang and stayed closed. The car accelerated at an alarming rate, the engine roaring and groaning, and then the station wagon disappeared entirely, and Raymie and Beverly were left standing together in a cloud that was composed of dust and gravel and exhaust. "Pfft," as Mrs. Borkowski would say. 8. "They seem like criminals to me," said Beverly. "That girl and her almost invisible granny, they remind me of Bonnie and Clyde." Raymie nodded. Even though Louisiana and her grandmother did not remind her of anyone else she had ever seen or heard of. "Do you even know who Bonnie and Clyde were?" asked Beverly. "Bank robbers?" said Raymie. "That's right," said Beverly. "Criminals. Those two look like they could rob a bank. And what kind of name is Louisiana, anyway? Louisiana is the name of a state. It's not what you call a person. That girl is probably operating under an assumed name. She's probably running from the law. That's why she seems so afraid in that rabbity kind of way. I tell you what, fear is a big waste of time. I'm not afraid of anything." Beverly threw her baton up high in the air and caught it with a professional snap of her wrist. Raymie felt her heart clench in disbelief. "You already know how to twirl a baton," she said. "So what?" said Beverly. "Why are you even taking lessons?" "I guess that is exactly none of your business. Why are you taking lessons?" "Because I need to win the contest." "I told you," said Beverly, "there's not going to be a contest. Not if I can help it. I've got all kinds of sabotaging skills. Right now I'm reading a book on safe cracking that was written by a criminal named J. Frederick Murphy. Ever heard of him?" Raymie shook her head. "Didn't think so," said Beverly. "My dad gave me the book. He knows all the criminal ways. I'm teaching myself how to crack a safe." "Isn't your father a cop?" asked Raymie. "Yeah," said Beverly, "he is. What's your point? I can already pick a lock. Have you ever picked a lock?" "No," said Raymie. "Didn't think so," said Beverly again. She threw the baton up in the air and caught it in her grubby hand. She made twirling a baton look easy and impossible at the same time. It was terrible to behold. Suddenly, everything seemed pointless. Raymie's plan to bring her father home wasn't much of a plan at all. What was she doing? She didn't know. She was alone, lost, cast adrift. "I'm sorry I betrayed you." Sabotage. "Aren't you afraid that you'll get caught?" said Raymie to Beverly. "I told you already," said Beverly. "I'm not afraid of anything." "Nothing?" asked Raymie. "Nothing," said Beverly. She stared at Raymie so hard that her face changed. Her eyes glowed. "Tell me a secret," whispered Beverly. "What?" said Raymie. Beverly looked away from Raymie. She shrugged. She threw the baton up and caught it, and then threw it back in the air again. And while the baton was suspended between the sky and the gravel, Beverly said, "I told you to tell me a secret." Beverly caught the baton. She looked at Raymie. And who knows why? Raymie told her. She said, "My father ran away with a dental hygienist he left in the middle of the night." This was not necessarily a secret, but the words were terrible and true, and it hurt to say them. "People are doing that pathetic kind of thing all the time," said Beverly. "Creeping down hallways in the dark with their shoes in their hand, leaving without telling anyone goodbye." Raymie didn't know if her father had crept down the hallway with his shoes in his hand, but he had certainly left without telling her goodbye. Considering this fact, she felt a pang of something. What was it? Outrage? Disbelief? Sorrow? "It makes me really, really mad," said Beverly. She took her baton and started beating the rubber tip of it into the gravel of the driveway. Small rocks leaped up into the air, desperate to escape Beverly's wrath. Wham! 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 Beverly beat the gravel, and Raymie looked on in admiration and fear. She had never seen anyone so angry. There was a lot of dust. A car painted a brilliant, glittering blue appeared on the horizon and pulled into the driveway and coasted to a stop. Beverly ignored the car. She kept beating the gravel. It didn't look like she intended to stop until she had reduced the whole world to dust. All right, I think we're going to go ahead and stop there for today. We'll find out a little bit more about Raymie and Beverly in Louisiana tomorrow. I hope you can join me then. Bye.